You're watching To The Point. What are the prospects of political dialogue between India and Pakistan? And what is the actual situation with Zaki-ur-Rahman Lakhvi and Hafiz Muhammad Saeed? Those are three of the issues I shall raise today with Pakistan's High Commissioner to India, Abdul Basit. High Commissioner, it's 2 months since Foreign Secretary Jai Shankar visited Islamabad as part of his Saak Yatra. At that point, there were enormous expectations that this could be the start of a political dialogue between the two countries. Are those hopes today stillborn? Or has some progress been achieved behind closed doors which we don't know about?
Thank you, Karan, first for having me, and greetings to your viewers. As you very rightly said, the Indian Foreign Secretary visited Pakistan as part of the Saak Yatra. We always thought that such visits, such contacts are helpful. But if you are referring to the resumption of the composite dialogue process, I'm afraid we are not there yet.
So in fact, those hopes in March that that visit could lead to the resumption of a political dialogue process, those hopes have been stillborn?
You would remember, Karan, that our Prime Minister took an exceptional step and attended Prime Minister Modi's inauguration. And that was pursuant to his vision of peace for development and development for peace. And he wanted to establish a quick rapport and contact with the new leadership in New Delhi.
That hasn't happened.
And the meeting between the two leaders went very well. But unfortunately, the momentum which was generated by the meeting could not be sustained subsequently.
In fact, in an interview that your Prime Minister has given the Saudi newspaper, the Saudi Gazette, just a week ago, he says, and I'm quoting, "I sincerely wanted to take the process of friendship with India forward. However, our desire for good neighborly relations with India has not been reciprocated." And then Mr. Nawaz Sharif adds, "India unilaterally called off our bilateral dialogue process on a frivolous pretext." Does that mean that your Prime Minister holds India's concerns about your talking to Hurriyat before formal talks as frivolous, and he hasn't taken it seriously?
No, I think, as I said earlier, the momentum which was generated by their meeting in New Delhi could not be sustained. And we were surprised and kind of, disappointed when the Indian Foreign Secretary did not go to Pakistan, because we believed that we did not do anything, or we did not inject any new phenomenon into our relationship that would have necessitated the Indian side to cancel the Foreign Secretary's visit.
Except that, as you know, High Commissioner, in India this was viewed as a moment of reckoning. They felt that a mistake had been made by holding talks with Hurriyat before you talked to the Indian Foreign Secretary. They said you either talk to us or you talk to separatists. Now, for your Prime Minister to call that frivolous suggests that even 9 months later, he doesn't take India's concerns seriously. So I ask you again, is Pakistan still of the belief that that attitude to talking to Hurriyat was a frivolous attitude and that India's concerns should not be taken seriously?
No, I think, as you know, that we have been talking to the Hurriyat leadership for years, and that wasn't something new, to interact with them and to talk to them. As I said, we were shocked and disappointed.
But the important thing is that your Prime Minister hasn't achieved any greater understanding of India's position even 9 months later. The talks were called off in August, we're now in May, and 9 months later, he still thinks that the reason India called off the talks is frivolous, which suggests he's not appreciative of India's position and India's attitude.
That is correct.
As bluntly as that you say it.
That is correct, because we thought that we have made a good beginning. But unfortunately, our expectations did not come through, and we lost the momentum.
Let me ask you 2 questions about this. In February, the Indian newspaper, the Indian Express, reported that, in fact, a solution had been worked out between India and Pakistan about how Pakistan and the High Commissioner in particular could meet Hurriyat without offending India. And it was to do with sequencing the meetings. It was said India would have no objection if you met Hurriyat at any point of time, provided those meetings did not happen before formal talks between the two countries. And I want to ask you, was such an understanding ever reached in February as the Express reported, or is it just speculation?
Karan, I would not really prefer to discuss contents of our discussions with India. But as I said, We have been meeting the Hurriyat leadership, and we will continue meeting them, because we see these interactions with the Hurriyat leadership as helpful and useful in our effort to find a...
Why won't you confirm whether there is some understanding, even if it's achieved behind closed doors, that permits you to meet Hurriyat, provided you don't meet Hurriyat immediately before formal talks? Why won't you confirm that? Because can I finish?
Yes, please.
Because if you did confirm it, it would suggest that there was some movement behind closed doors.
But since then we have met the Hurriyat leadership. They came to attend our National Day reception, and I met them on the lines of...
So is that proof there is this understanding?
So it is for India to say, articulate their position. Because
okay, that I understand. India will articulate its position, but as you point out, after this report in the Express in February, you have met Hurriyat?
Yes.
India has not objected to those meetings, and therefore this suggests that this report in the Express is accurate.
That is for you to, interpret that way, and it is for India to articulate
and yet
their
the
position
contradiction is this, that although it's possible there is some behind-scenes understanding about your meeting Hurriyat, nonetheless progress in terms of the political dialogue hasn't happened, and your Prime Minister still calls India's attitude that called off the talks in August frivolous, and that's a very blunt word he used.
Now, there is disappointment. There is no doubt about that, because we do want our relations with India to normalize. We do want our relations to, move from conflict management to conflict resolution. And we do want to engage with India in a sustained, meaningful dialogue process.
You're suggesting that the Indian attitude is the obstacle?
I think India is not yet ready to engage with us in a sustained dialogue process, and we can't force India to come to the negotiating table.
So is Pakistan today disappointed as far as the political dialogue process is concerned?
We are disappointed. We are disappointed.
Are you more than disappointed? Are you also feeling frustrated?
Not frustrated, because at the end of the day, peace is in our mutual interest. And peace can only be achieved through dialogue. And dialogue is not a favor by one country to another.
But at the moment, the political process, despite occasional hopes, such as in March when Jaishankar went to Pakistan, the political process is going around in circles. We're not achieving anything.
We are not achieving anything. That is correct.
So we're at a standstill.
Yes.
In fact, the situation hasn't improved at all since August, when the talks were called off.
No, I think situation has improved to the extent that your Foreign Secretary visited Pakistan, and we did discuss things related to SAARC.
There was a blip of hope, but that blip of hope hasn't been built upon.
We are back to kind of, in a wait-and-see mode.
Back almost to square one?
Absolutely.
All right. That's a very clear understanding from your perspective of where the political process stands. There have been occasional hopes of dialogue, hopes of breakthrough, but they have not been realized.
That is correct.
Let's then move on to Zakir Rahman Lakhvi, who was released on bail in April. India has decided to raise the matter with the United Nations Sanctions Committee on the grounds that India believes this is a breach of UN Resolution 1267. How does Pakistan view that decision?
First of all, Karan, on Mr. Lakhvi's issue, he has been granted bail, but we must understand that he has not been acquitted of the charges pertaining to the Mumbai attack. The trial, as you know, is still underway, and the prosecution is leaving no stone unturned to make sure that this trial...
All of that I'll contest in a moment's time, because in India we do believe the prosecution is weak. We believe that what you call the trial is underway actually is better expressed by saying the trial has been dragging itself for 6 years and more. The judge has changed 7 times. The prosecutor has changed at least twice. The court has changed 3 times. Let's leave the process of the actual trial till later. Come back and answer my question first about India taking up this matter with the UN Sanctions Committee on the grounds it breaches UN Resolution 1267.
No, I think it is India's prerogative to take whatever action they want to do.
You have no objection?
Vis-a-vis the United Nations. But I think important is to remember that Pakistan has been complying with all its international obligations, and we strongly believe that we are not in breach of Resolution 1267, by the way.
The head of the UN Sanctions Committee has apparently said to India that he would be happy to look into the matter. Will Pakistan cooperate, or will you stonewall any questions the UN asks you?
No, we would not, because we are very clear that we are not in breach of any UN resolution.
Now, on April the 14th, the Punjab government in Pakistan appealed to the Pakistan Supreme Court against the bail, against the release of Zaki Urman Lakhvi. 3 weeks have gone by since then, and your Supreme Court has done absolutely nothing. In fact, just 24 hours ago, your government in Punjab had to remind the Supreme Court to act, but even still, the Supreme Court is silent. To many, this suggests that the Pakistan system doesn't take Zaki Urman's release seriously, and secondly, you don't take seriously the concerns expressed by governments in America, England, France, all of whom lost citizens in 26/11.
No, I think that is not the right way of looking at things. As democracies, you know, we have our own judicial process, you have your own legal process. And I think as democracies, we should respect each other's judicial processes and also their outcomes. That, I think, is important. And
you know, let me quote to you BBC Urdu writing in March. Many people believe Pakistan initially arrested Lakhvi only because Kesab's evidence was so damning. But once the storm had blown over, analysts say the Pakistani authorities reverted to their original policy of treating LET as an ally. In India, many people say this is actually the explanation why you have failed to prosecute Lakhvi properly and effectively. This is why the case is dragged on for 6 years. The court has changed 3 times, the judge has changed 7 times, the prosecutor has changed twice.
But we are prosecuting. He is not behind bars, that is correct. He has been granted bail. But as I said earlier, the Mumbai trial is on. And we are trying our best.
It is
so
only
these
on,
things,
High Commissioner, forgive my interrupting, in a very technical sense, in the sense that it hasn't reached a verdict. The bizarre part is this. In December 2012, Pakistan's own federal investigative agency had given the court in Adiala damning evidence of how, in fact, 26/11 killers had been instructed by LET at their camps. And I'm quoting from that evidence. The camps were in Mirpur Sakro of Thata district, Yusuf Go and Landi areas of Karachi. Now, if after that your court releases Lakhvi on bail because it questions this evidence, then to India it suggests that your public prosecutor, and that's a man appointed by the government, has not argued effectively. He hasn't pushed the evidence he has properly, as a result of which the judge is not convinced.
But I would not agree with you because, you know, it is for the court to decide about the merit or demerit of any evidence or the argument being made before the court. So it is not for you or for me to decide as to why and how the court worked or decided in favor or against Lakhvi. So let's wait. The case is, you know, sub judice, and then to say that it has taken too long, I think again not justified, because all cases are different. They vary from, you know, cases differ in their some cases would take 2 years, some cases would take 10 years. And I can remind you that Samjhota Express trial is a case in point.
Absolutely, and I won't deny it for a moment. Yeah. And no one would say that you should start questioning how a court handles a case. But let me put to you 2 reasons why people in India are, how should I put it, suspicious of Pakistan's handling of Lakhvi. To begin with, not just India, but the United Kingdom and the United States has given Pakistan voluminous telephone intercepts of Lakhvi instructing for hours on end the 26/11 killers. And these have not been accepted in court as evidence for one simple technical reason, that Lakhvi will not give a voice sample of his voice to match the intercepts. And for 6 years, the Pakistani legal system, as well as the Pakistani political system, has not taken one step to overcome what is actually just a technical infirmity. As a result, it's now possible Lakhvi could end up being acquitted rather than convicted, all because of a technical infirmity. And people say, why haven't you taken steps to get over this? This is insincerity in India now.
I would not agree with your interpretation. I think the prosecution is doing its best under the given circumstances, and sparing no effort to work on the basis of whatever the evidence is available with them, and let, you know, the court decide.
Except that in this instance, this is a matter that is beyond the control or the ability of the prosecution to do anything about, because here the technical infirmity needs to be resolved either by your government stepping in and amending the law, or by the court stepping in and saying, a technical infirmity cannot stand in the way of a man who's accused of terror being brought to justice. Neither your government nor your court has stepped in to remove a technical infirmity. And as I say, as a result of a technical infirmity, Lakhvi could end up being acquitted.
No, I do not know about that. But it is, again, you know, for the court to decide, for the prosecution, because as far as the prosecution is concerned, I can tell you that we are very serious, and the prosecution is very serious to make sure that this trial ends and ends successfully. Now, what happens at the end of the day, I would not like to jump the gun.
I won't question the seriousness of the prosecution, although, as I've pointed out through examples I've given earlier, many others would, and there are good reasons to question it. I'll come instead to the second reason why people are skeptical or suspicious of Pakistan's handling of Lakhvi, and that's to do with the attitude of the authorities to Lakhvi. Now, again, BBC Urdu, not an Indian source, BBC Urdu says that in jail, Lakhvi and his 6 associates had several rooms to their access. They had TV, mobile phones and internet. They had dozens of daily visitors without any checking. ProRepublica in America says that in fact Lakhvi even had conjugal rights. And on one occasion, General Kayani apparently refused an American request to confiscate Lakhvi's phone. To Indians, that suggests that you're treating Lakhvi, allegedly in jail, as an honored guest rather than as a terrorist.
I would rather suggest not to lend credence to such speculative stories, you know. I would not know, but...
you dismiss these?
I think this is all speculation.
But it's from BBC and ProRepublica, not from India.
So what? They can also speculate. So I find all these stories misleading and would not really lend much credence to them.
Okay. As things stand at the moment, the Islamabad High Court has ordered the trial court to complete the trial in 2 months. Lawyers in India say that if the intercepts are not to be admitted as evidence, yet the trial is to be completed in 2 months, this suggests that in fact Lakhvi will be acquitted, not convicted. That deadline is pushing towards that outcome.
We do not know, Karan, and I would, you know, sincerely suggest that we should not be drawing premature conclusions. Let's wait. Our law, our legal process will take its course, and let's wait and see, rather than, you know, jumping the gun, as I said.
People would be happy to wait and let the law take its natural process if it weren't for apprehensions based on this sort of evidence that in fact it's heading to the wrong conclusion. I'll give you another reason why people are apprehensive that Lakhvi will end up being acquitted, not convicted. Because when the Islamabad High Court gave a 2-month deadline to the trial court, something it didn't do, both repeatedly and deliberately, is actually pass on the case record to the trial court. 3 weeks have lapsed. That case record still hasn't reached the trial court. Now, of the original 2-month deadline, only 5 weeks remain. If the case is to be completed in 5 weeks, people say it's now even more likely the man will be acquitted. It's these sort of reasons that make people in India say, we can't afford to wait and let law take its course, because all the indications suggest it's going in the wrong direction.
Not really. I would not go to that extent. I would still recommend and request to my Indian friends that it doesn't serve any purpose to create unnecessary hype. Let's wait and see what happens. And as I told you earlier, the prosecution is proceeding step by step, and we would hope that the final verdict would be in the prosecution's favor.
So your position is that the fears that I'm putting to you, which are widely shared by lawyers, experts and analysts in India, are exaggerated, that they are hype, to use your word?
I think so, and you know, it doesn't serve any purpose to comment on a case which is sub judice. I would again submit that we better wait and see.
All right, let's move beyond Lakhvi to Hafiz Muhammad Saeed. Last month, April, he said to television channels in Lahore, and I'm quoting him, "Jihad is the duty of an Islamic government. I say what our army will do to secure the rights of Kashmiris is jihad. We will extend help to Kashmiris alongside the Pakistani government. We call this jihad." And my question is simple. Is the Pakistani army carrying out jihad against India's Kashmir, as Saeed claims?
Current jihad is a very broad term and has many dimensions to it. Political, it can be political, you know, economic, diplomatic, moral. and private citizens are entitled to their views.
What about the army carrying out jihad?
As far as the state of Pakistan is concerned, I can tell you that we are committed to support the legitimate Kashmiri struggle politically, diplomatically and morally.
But by way of jihad?
No, I'm saying jihad has many dimensions, but if you are referring to qital bis-sayf, that is the violent and use of force aspect of jihad. But I'm saying that Pakistan, the state of Pakistan, is committed to keep supporting the legitimate Kashmiri struggle politically, diplomatically and morally.
That I understand, High Commissioner, and I understand the distinction between jihad done by an individual. But we're talking here about the Pakistan army doing jihad. It's not an individual, it's an institution. It's an institution that has recourse to weapons, to force. So when Sayeed claims that the Pakistan army is carrying out jihad, I simply ask you, is Sayeed right or is Sayeed wrong?
He is entitled to his views.
But is he right or wrong?
He is entitled to his views.
But is he right or wrong?
No, I think he cannot talk on behalf of the Pakistan army.
So he's wrong?
He is.
He is?
Yes.
In which case, my question is this. If he's wrong, why has the Pakistan government not taken action against him? And I'll tell you why I say that. He is designated as a tourist under the as a terrorist under the United Nations, under the United States. Your own country in 2009 arrested him under the Anti-Terrorist Act, but the Lahore High Court let him off. Now, when he has said something as damning as this, why not take action again? A, it's your opportunity, and if you don't want to act under the Anti-Terrorist Act, act under the Maintenance of Public Order Ordinance, but at least act.
But he is simply, expressing his views. And I said, here in India too, in Pakistan too, there are people who express such extreme views. So they're entitled to their views.
Except that his views are likely to bring the Pakistan army and the Pakistan state into disrepute in India. Does it not worry you that by not taking action, not even refuting, just refute him, even that hasn't happened?
No, I'm refuting that.
Now?
Yeah.
Now?
Because you asked me a question, I'm refuting that.
Quite right. This is what I'm saying. He spoke in April and your government was silent.
So it's not necessary to comment on every statement made by a private citizen, because it's not worth it, in my view.
I accept that argument, although many in India would say that that's questionable, but I accept it. Let me put something else to you. There is a view in India that Pakistan, the government, your establishment finds multiple excuses for not acting against Hafiz Sayeed. I want to put one to you that perhaps your government has overlooked. Under United Nations Resolution 1267, which is the resolution designating Sayeed as a terrorist, member countries, which includes Pakistan, are required not just to block his funds, not just to ensure that he doesn't have access to arms, but most importantly to ensure that he cannot travel through their territory. Now Sayeed frequently and repeatedly and freely travels the length and breadth of Pakistan. No one stops him, and that's a clear breach of 1267. Why is action not being taken?
Karan, I am sorry, but you are, I think, reading this resolution not correctly, because this particular guideline refers to foreign designated individuals, not your own nationals. There's a travel ban on foreign designated individuals. You can't put your own people behind bars without any evidence.
The UN resolution doesn't make that distinction explicit. That's your interpretation.
No, it does. If you read, I think it is sub-para 3.
It simply talks about travel through their territory. It doesn't make a distinction between foreign designated and your own nationals.
So obviously, when you it doesn't say that you put behind bars your own individuals or put ban their travel within your country. It talks about this particular guideline, talks about their arrival, their transiting through, so which clearly means that they're talking about foreign designated individuals.
Have you sought explicit understanding or clearance of this interpretation from the UN?
We know about this interpretation.
No or assume?
Sorry?
No or assume?
No, but we know we are active members of the United Nations, and we know how these resolutions are formulated, and nowhere this resolution refers to your own nationals.
Okay.
It talks about foreign nationals. If they were to travel to your country, only then this guideline will be invoked.
Let's, at the end of this interview, come back to where we began, the prospects for political dialogue between the two countries, because everyone would say if there isn't a political dialogue, the relationship won't improve. The problem is this. If you look back on the conversations we've just had, first about Lakhvi and now about Hafiz Sayeed, it's perfectly understandable to people in India that actually the political dialogue is not just stalled, it's going to remain dormant for the foreseeable future? Would you accept that the differences just over those two men are so large, the gap is so enormous, that political dialogue is at the moment seemingly impossible?
No, I would not say impossible, but these are not the only two issues, I think. We have been engaged with each other in a very comprehensive dialogue process, and which has 8 segments, by the way. And we have been discussing all the issues.
Not at the moment. That's the sad part.
At the moment, we are not engaged. That is
Do you
correct.
see any possibility? Do you see any silver lining on the horizon that could lead to the dialogue process resuming?
First of all, Karan, it is important that whether it is, UN resolutions or Shimla Agreement or the 1999 Lahore Declaration, we need to understand that from our perspective, and I think India also recognizes that Jammu and Kashmir is the mother of all our issues, bilateral issues.
Well, India would say that terror is perhaps that.
Let me. And then, and the other issues like Siachen, Sar Creek, water issues, terrorism, they all have their roots in the Jammu and Kashmir dispute. So I think at the end of the day, it would be absolutely important for our two countries to work with the sincerity of purpose to overcome our differences on Jammu and Kashmir and try to settle it.
You've gone back, High Commissioner, to a formulation that we hadn't heard from a Pakistani official for a while. Your answer clearly suggests that Jammu and Kashmir is the core issue. Terrorism, in your eyes, is a subset of it. It's not even equivalent.
All our issues, have their origin or genesis in the Jammu and Kashmir.
So Pakistan's gone back to the position
we have not gone back.
J&K is the core issue.
We have not gone back, but it is a reality. And I think our Indian friends also understand that.
Can I put something to you?
Yeah.
You're emphasizing and stressing that it is a reality that J&K is the core issue.
It is.
Is another problem to resuming the dialogue process?
I don't think so. The problem is when we try to reinvent the wheel all the time. Now, there is a framework available that is a composite dialogue, which is all-encompassing. We discussed there Jammu
It's in
and
disuse
Kashmir.
at the moment.
It is, but...
and not only is it in disuse, people on both sides are questioning whether it ought to be reinvented or changed.
No, I don't think so. It needs to be reinvented because...
You want to stick to the composite dialogue whenever the dialogue
because
happens.
it's a comprehensive process and it has yielded results in the past.
Except that at the moment, whether you stick to the composite or whether you change to a new format is almost academic because the dialogue process itself isn't happening.
That is correct. That is correct.
So we wind up by coming to an agreed conclusion that as far as dialogue is concerned, there is no prospect of it happening in the foreseeable future.
No, we will keep on trying.
Absolutely,
keep on trying because diplomacy is the art of the possible. So we will keep on trying.
That I fully agree with. The Indian Minister of State for Home Affairs, Hari Bhai Chaudhary, in a written answer in Parliament said that India does not know where Dawood Ibrahim is. Does Pakistan view that as vindication of its repeated stand that Dawood Ibrahim is not in Pakistan and he's not being sheltered by your intelligence agencies?
Now, Karan, I do not know if I can add anything to that. And what we saw yesterday, honestly speaking, that was quite disquieting and disconcerting from our perspective. And frankly, that calls for some introspection. If you prepare dossiers on the basis of self-serving information, then we have every reason to be worried. And our worries are justified.
You're saying something very important, High Commissioner. You're saying that the statement made by Mr. Chaudhary that India doesn't know where Dawood Ibrahim is actually raises important critical question marks about the dossiers India has been given Pakistan. Now you're saying those become self-serving dossiers. It
does raise questions. There is no doubt about that.
One other thing, when India says they don't know where Ibrahim is, does that vindicate Pakistan's position, which you repeatedly stated?
It does.
He's not in Pakistan.
It does. He is not in Pakistan.
So Mr. Chaudhary has vindicated your position in your eyes?
Absolutely.
One other thing, Mr. Chaudhary went one step further. He said, and I'm quoting him, extradition process with regard to Dawood Ibrahim will be initiated once the subject is located. Does that mean that there are no extradition proceedings against Dawood Ibrahim that are pending at the moment?
He is not in Pakistan. So why would even we entertain such a request if that has ever been made?
I'm going to ask you an explicit question. Has India ever, either in the recent past or earlier on, formally in writing requested the extradition of Dawood Ibrahim?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge.
So despite all the claims made by politicians in India, starting with L.K. Advani, and by several Congress politicians as well thereafter, that India has been demanding Dawood Ibrahim's extradition from Pakistan, you're saying to me as Pakistan High Commissioner that to the best of your knowledge, no request...
I'm not aware, because there is no extradition treaty between our two countries in any case.
But despite the fact there isn't an extradition treaty, India can still demand his extradition?
It can, yeah, it can.
But you're saying it hasn't?
Not to my knowledge, yes.
This is devastating for India. To the best of your knowledge, India has never requested in writing Ibrahim's extradition?
Not to my knowledge.